G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute and today I'm joined by Dyson.
Dyson!
And today we're going to be re-recording an episode that we recorded last week because we got some new software and it had some hiccups in it and I didn't have the push-to-talk working. So my fault, my bad, totally my fault.
Actually, he was improving the quality of our show by just not letting us hear him.
Yeah, thanks. But Osiris is also not here as well because Osiris has had a dental health problem and he can't speak. So hopefully he heals up and we'll see him next time. So yeah, today's episode is about what we believe to be a gap in the Corvette lineup, a missing Corvette. And Dyson, do you want to explain that for the viewers?
Yes, currently you have the Polaris, the tip of the spear, the anti-capital ship Corvette. Then you move over and you have the Hammerhead, this slow anti-fighter gun platform. And it just feels like there's this opportunity for another Corvette, this kind of hole in the small, basically your anti-medium ship range, something like a Connie size. What will take that out?
Yeah, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So what we did was we kind of have not only speculated, but we've gone in and thought, well, what roles would this have, and what manufacturers? So I guess we should go through manufacturers first. So,
Yeah,
the first obvious one to us is Anvil, and we think this is probably the highest candidate, purely because they're the other big military manufacturer besides Aegis. Yet they don't have a capital ship. Their biggest ship right now, when you think about it, it's a little crazy, is the Carrack, and that's while military, it's an explorer military. I think they'd be more akin to having something more combat focused, and this is a very combat type of role, especially the Corvettes in general, especially looking at the other two. So I think this would fit them the best. Do you want to have another hit at the next one?
yes, the other one is Drake. And Drake, remember the Cutlass was originally a military project that they got turned down and then they sold on the civilian market. So I could really see them having a military Corvette that's pure military, and because, well, it just fits them.
Yeah. And I also think when you see some of the ones we mentioned, they will scream Drake. Like some of the concepts, you'll see very evil, very Drake. So yeah. I think one of the other ones is Crusader Industries. Is that what they're called? Crusader Industries.
Yes.
Because they've got a lot of ships on the pipeline. My only worry when we talked about this one is they don't seem completely combat focused. They seem to be more utilitarian. So maybe not. And then the last one, Dyson, was...
This one's kind of a long shot, but Kruger, because they are known for building ships around weapon platforms.
And that'll become clear later when we talk about it, so leave that one as... Leave it. Shh, don't do details, it'll be okay. We'll go into that when we talk about it. So we've speculated in three main areas, and we'll go through those and we'll talk about it. So the first one is e-warfare, and you can kick us off, Dyson, with your first idea, which is disruption.
Yes. So Corvettes, they're great at escorting things. They're the largest style, they're the smallest capital ships, but they're going to really be a large escort vessel in this case. And disruption just makes perfect sense in e-warfare. Having a ship that's there that will dampen out the enemy's sensors, mess with them, then go in and start doing different things like, oh, I have a swarm of missiles coming for me. I don't know which one is real, which one isn't. Massive force projection there. And then the other one is actually doing actual force projection. Let's say you have a convoy you're escorting, and you have maybe a couple fighters and your Corvette there. Boom! You have an entire fleet there, and the enemy pirates might be like, do I really want to attack this heavily guarded convoy? And the answer is probably no.
I can even see Disruption Corvette either coming in first and setting off an EMP and the fighters come in, or it comes in and lets off a bunch of EMP missiles and disables everything, and its fighters pick up and clean up the mess, so to speak. So I can see that working really, really well. Shall we move on to the next one?
Definitely.
This is the one that after the original recording, we talked about this for a while because we think I've forgotten a lot of the ideas we talked about last week, but this is one that we think that was really cool. My original idea for this was based around a nautical theme of a manta ray that had one of those, you know, there's great white sharks that actually have these little fish that attach themselves to the bottom of other ships. So it would have some kind of magnetic, electromagnetic connection that it could connect to the bottom of the capital ship, and it would break off and go over to another ship and board them and attach themselves so they can't be removed from the other ship, and literally board either by crawling out across the surface or however they do it and getting into the ship. And it's kind of like a surgical strike ship, so basically they would get in and get a job done and get out. And so it's kind of like a stealth Corvette, but also it would also have e-warfare connotations where it would have the ability to, like I said with the previous disruption ship, they could come in first, EMP and just knock everything out, and then the rest of the fleet piles in. Or they could surgical strike in and just disable one ship either with EMP missiles or an EMP and then board them. And they would be designed specifically to go after a surgical strike, like to go after a particular piece of information or person on a ship. Sorry, guys.
I was just going to say, this makes so much sense because you have a Corvette here that is supporting a strike team, and when you think of the Polaris, the way the hangar and everything is, it just doesn't quite fit. It feels like you would need to have a ship designed specifically around this type of operation, and it would need to be stealth.
Yeah.
It would need to be allow you to get in.
And I think the only other, like, the ship that we came back to a few times when we were talking about this one was the Prowler. The only problem with the Prowler is it's an Asperia vessel, and it's not really military designed, and it's also hundreds of years old. So I could possibly see a more human version being developed, but I like the idea of the magnetic thing, like just being going up and like this suction onto the other ship. I think that would be really interesting, but you'd have to be so stealthy to pull it off, and I think that's kind of what we're going for, is like a real stealthy ship, but I'll have to kind of wait and see. Next topic down is drone-based Corvettes. Now, we had a few different ideas here. The interesting thing, though, is it kind of devolves from talking about the ship and more talking about the different types of drones you could have. So, the first one I thought of was the I went back to Star Wars Episode 3, the buzz droids in that opening sequence that were trying to destroy the Jedi ships, and R2-D2 was defending himself. But the ability to basically kind of, I call it like a reverse repair drone. So you would tell them to target a particular area, and they might pull off an engine, or they might just remove weapons, or they might disable oxygen, or something like that. So just complete chaos on their ship, so that they've got another thing they've got to contend with to make things difficult for them while you're still shooting at them. Do you want to mention the next one, Dyson?
Yes, the next one is my second favorite of the drones. It's the idea of a hacker drone. A drone that you basically send out, it attaches to another ship, and it will hack the information that's on that ship. Great for data running, great for getting information, and the other cool thing is, imagine if you have that now stuck on their ship, and it's basically tracking them, and it's a big tracker that they actually have to deal with that might have a explosive option if they try to remove it.
Yeah, that'd be great. So yeah, that'd be interesting. But I could also see that with the reverse repair drones too, like sending people out trying to shoot them off the ship would be interesting. And I also see that hacker drone, even any of these drones we mentioned actually, working back with those e-warfare Corvettes we were talking about. So you could actually have a drone that works in par. Maybe the drone goes in, disables the sensors so the little ship can get in and attach. You never know.
Yeah. And of course,
the next one is the yeah, you go with this one because this was your baby.
Yes, this I was going to say, this one is my favorite of all the drone ideas, is a PDS drone, because you have missiles, you have ships that might not necessarily be good at fending them off, but with area denial, you just send out these drones, they shoot down missiles for you. You could have maybe a weaker version that actually can fly along as you're escorting other ships. Or imagine if you've taken over somewhere like Korea, or you have a mining operation, you have these stationary ones that can not only just shoot at missiles, but maybe even take pot shots at fighters as well.
Yeah. And maybe the balance to that is it takes them time to unfold into their little platform and fold back up, and that maybe they're completely indefensible when they're folded up, you know. So that'd be interesting. It'd be a really interesting concept, and it would be a way to, because we know they're talking about having turrets on installations, that would be a way to kind of have turrets in space, so to speak. So yeah. So when he was mentioning this is the last topic we're going to talk about, which was the reason I'm mentioning this is because when he mentioned Kruger and the Merlin, we want you to picture that Merlin, now upscale that to a Corvette. So it's kind of like large weapon-based Corvette. So you go first, Dyson.
So, how many of you remember The Expanse? In The Expanse, they had these ships that were basically engines with railguns slapped to them. And imagine having, when you look at the Merlin itself, it's basically a ship built around the gun. They built their ship around this giant Gatling gun. So imagine putting a giant railgun on a Corvette that can just move itself around, because it's still large, but it's small enough to be able to maneuver and hit medium-sized ships, or even use swarms to take out large ships.
You'd want lots of thrusters on a ship like that. The other alternative, instead of the ship being able to rotate really quickly, is maybe have them almost like a remote turret. You could have, you know, on top of the ship, or maybe even one above and one below, so something like this that rotates around the ship, and that way if something like a Constellation goes past, you can rotate it and literally just shoot it out of the sky. And that could be, what I'm thinking is something like an Idris that's got a smaller, you know, the railgun off the Idris I just said, so a smaller railgun or a beam weapon, or like you said, like a railgun that can literally just rotate. So because the capital ships, obviously the Corvettes are slower, it actually can track the medium-large ships and just bang. So that would work for me. I could also, going back across all the ones we've mentioned, I could see a pollination between all the topics we've mentioned across, you know, something with drones, something with a large weapon, something with the e-warfare. I could see that across all the topics. Can you see that as well, or?
Well, it makes sense. Again, a lot of what we're talking about are not necessarily ships themselves, but different concepts for things that could be on ships.
Yeah,
because
it is.
Drones are a thing in Star Citizen. Point defense is a thing in Star Citizen. EMPs are a thing. They're eventually going to have grav boots. So there's a lot of these things that are already things, but now just putting them into one cohesive package.
I just realized we totally missed one of the drones. Wow, I can't believe it. Yeah, so sorry, stuffed up there completely. I jumped the gun, didn't I? Oh well. The last drone I wanted to mention was like a suicide drone. So basically, it sounds really simple, almost similar to what you mentioned with the hacker drone exploding. It literally just drives into it and explodes. And that'd be akin to like a proximity mine, or the mine layer that they mentioned in the past. So you could lay mines in space, or drones in space, and they act like mines. Or you could program them to specifically attack one target. So maybe that's their version of a mine layer. It's really just a suicidal drone ship. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, it makes a lot of sense because you have agile ships, but if you have basically deactivated drones which wait for something to come in its range and then like accelerate as fast as they can toward it, makes a lot of sense.
It's really scary because you probably wouldn't be able to pick them up on sensors because they're asleep, so they're just dead drifting. And then anyway.
Yep. Or even on patrol. Imagine if you have a couple of these suicide drones, like missiles on patrol. Like if you could have missiles just actually moving on a small little patrol path, keeping an eye on things.
That's very
and just go.
And that works
boom.
With your PDS idea, because they could be going around the outside of the area trying to lock down. Ooh. So an aerial denial kind of Corvette, that'd be really good for something like mining or, you know, salvaging when you're out there on the big org fleet operations where they're mining. That would be really strong. That'd be awesome. That'd be really good. All right, I think that'll kind of wrap up our ideas for today. I'd love to hear people's comments on our thoughts. Also, any Corvettes, also manufacturers. I know it sounds really weird, but manufacturers are a real driving force in Star Citizen, and it actually details a lot of what the ship's going to be like. Like, if you pick a Drake ship, it automatically goes down a certain path. So it's the same thing with if you pick a military manufacturer, it becomes very combat orientated. So we'd like to think, like, when you mention what you think the ship can do, also think and tell us what manufacturer you think it could possibly be. Also, even if you just can't think of a ship yourself, is it clear to you guys that things like Anvil really do need a Corvette? Or what other manufacturers do you think could possibly need a ship?
Maybe an Origin James Bond ship.
007. Isn't, wait, 890 jump and just put a, yeah. He needs a Bentley. You need a Bentley though, like a. That'd be great. Yeah, so leave us your thoughts and comments, or jump on Discord and hit us up anytime. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. Or that's if we're asleep because we're Australian. Or you can come and talk to us if we're on there. Yeah, like this video if you like this video. If you didn't dislike this video, that's fine with me. I've been Execute. This has been Dyson, and we'll catch you guys on the flip side.